Before you can lead, love, heal, or build, you must first fix yourself. The world is filled with broken people trying to fix other broken people, but healing begins within. This message isn't just motivational, it's foundational. If you don't deal with what's hurting you will hurt others through you. Let's walk through 8 powerful principles that will challenge you to take responsibility for your transformation. You were never designed to live on empty. When your emotional, spiritual, or mental reservoir runs dry, everything you try to do for others becomes strained. People are trying to be great parents, committed partners, effective leaders, and supportive friends while they themselves are exhausted, discouraged, and spiritually depleted. The outcome is often frustration, resentment, or burnout. We live in a culture that glorifies productivity but neglects personal wellness. You can't keep pouring from your cup without refilling it. It doesn't make you weak to admit you need rest, boundaries, or healing. It makes you human. Imagine a nurse who works long hours, helping others heal. She tends to wounds, administers medication, and comforts the sick. But what happens if she ignores her own symptoms? Eventually, the same person offering care becomes the one in need of rescue. It's the same with our souls. You can't be emotionally available to someone when you haven't first sat with your own emotions. You can't consistently encourage others if your internal dialogue is full of self-doubt. This principle applies to all areas of life. Leaders cannot lead from burnout. Parents cannot nurture from depletion. Lovers cannot love from wounds they've refused to acknowledge. When you are whole, your relationships improve not because others change, but because you now bring stability, wisdom, and strength into the interaction. A study published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that individuals who practice consistent self-care are more empathetic and resilient in high-pressure environments. The people who take time to refill through prayer, meditation, rest, and reflection actually become more useful, not less. One of the most dangerous lies we believe is that we must choose between ourselves and others. True impact is not made through neglect, but through overflow. A full cup doesn't fear being poured out because it knows it's being refilled consistently. Refusing to care for yourself doesn't make you noble. It makes you unstable. You'll start to resent the very people you were meant to serve, and love will feel like a burden instead of a gift. That's the cost of self-neglect. Fixing yourself begins with permission to slow down, to check in, to heal. Your peace is not optional. Your wholeness is not negotiable. If you want to be a blessing to others, start by being a blessing to yourself. Healing is not a community project. It's a personal mandate. Others may support you, listen to you, pray for you, but no one else can do the internal work required to transform your heart, mindset, and habits. We often wait for someone to rescue us, to apologize, to make things right. But waiting for someone else to fix what's broken in you is a passive surrender of your own power. Healing begins when you stop assigning your growth to someone else's behavior. A man raised in a dysfunctional household once shared how he kept repeating his father's patterns in his own family. Anger, silence, emotional detachment. He blamed his upbringing until he realized that accountability isn't about blame, it's about responsibility. He didn't choose the trauma, but healing from it was his responsibility. That shift in mindset changed his life and restored his relationships. Pain unaddressed becomes pain that spreads. You can be successful in your career and still be broken in your soul. You can inspire crowds and still live with wounds from your past. Healing isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming better, healthier, wiser, more compassionate. Taking responsibility for your healing means being honest about what hurts. It means letting go of denial, pride, and shame. It means doing the hard work, therapy, prayer, journaling, reflection, forgiveness, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Emotional maturity requires intentional labor. Think of healing like surgery. No one wants to be on that table. No one volunteers for pain. But sometimes what's growing inside of you needs to be removed. And the pain of recovery is far better than the pain of living with the disease. Emotional wounds work the same way. Ignored pain becomes infection. But when addressed with care, pain becomes purpose. People will tell you, time heals all wounds. But that's not true. Time just hides them. It's what you do with that time that determines if you heal. If you avoid the wound, you delay the healing. If you confront it, you accelerate growth. Healing yourself isn't just for you. It's for everyone you will touch. Your children, your partner, your community. When you break the cycle, generations change. What starts as a personal assignment becomes a generational blessing. You have everything within you to begin. You don't need perfect conditions or full understanding. You just need to be willing. The day you decide to take responsibility for your healing is the day everything starts to shift. Unresolved pain has a voice, and if not healed, it will speak through your behavior. People often wonder why they lash out, push others away, sabotage their own relationships, or feel emotionally distant. The answer is often buried in unhealed wounds. A broken heart can create a bitter tongue. A wounded soul can become a defensive personality. Pain that is not confronted will be recycled through your words, actions, and decisions. Children raised in dysfunction often grow into adults who unconsciously recreate that dysfunction. Not because they want to, but because it feels familiar. A woman who was never affirmed may find herself overly critical of others, constantly comparing, needing validation. A man who grew up in chaos may feel anxious in peace, so he creates arguments, not knowing how to live without emotional volatility. Brokenness becomes a pattern until it is interrupted by intentional healing. Relationships suffer most from the wounds we never address. It's easy to blame others for the emotional storms in our lives, but often we are carrying emotional baggage from past disappointments into present connections. When you don't fix yourself, you'll end up expecting others to fix you. You will look for lovers to be your therapist, friends to be your savior, and leaders to be your identity. That weight is not fair to place on anyone. Healing isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. You can be a work in progress and still choose not to hurt people with your unresolved pain. Taking time to fix yourself is a way of protecting others from the version of you that's still bleeding. People shouldn't have to tiptoe around your trauma. That's your work to do. There's a famous phrase, hurt people, but the full truth is, healed people help people heal. When you do the work, your presence becomes safe. Your words carry compassion instead of criticism. Your love becomes a place of rest, not anxiety. People will feel the difference even if they can't explain it. One young man, raised in a home filled with verbal abuse, began a pattern of speaking harshly to his own children. One day, his daughter flinched when he raised his voice. That image broke him. He realized he had become the very thing he once feared. That moment became his turning point. He sought counseling, committed to changing his tone, and started affirming his children daily. His healing didn't erase the past, but it rewrote the future. You owe it to the people you love to fix yourself, not because you're bad, but because you're responsible. Choosing to heal means choosing to stop the cycle. It means being brave enough to say, I will not let what hurt me turn me into someone who hurts others. The idea that someone will show up to rescue you, fix your problems, remove your pain, or change your circumstances is one of the most deceptive mindsets. It keeps people passive, waiting for the right person, opportunity, or sign, while time slips away. Waiting for someone to come and change your life often becomes the excuse that stops you from changing yourself. There's nothing wrong with needing help, but when you make rescue your strategy, you hand over your power. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. What often looks like being trapped is actually a refusal to act. Life is not going to hand you healing, wholeness, or transformation. These are choices you must pursue intentionally. A woman struggling with depression once shared how she prayed every night for God to change her situation. Nothing seemed to happen. One day, someone asked her what steps she had taken. She paused. That moment opened her eyes. Prayer was powerful, but faith without action was leaving her in the same place. She started therapy, changed her routines, and began speaking life over herself. Slowly, things began to shift, not because a rescuer came, but because she became active in her own healing. No one is responsible for your growth more than you are. Not your parents, not your partner, not your pastor. Fixing yourself means breaking the addiction to external saviors. It means recognizing that even when others fail you, you still have the authority to rise. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You need a decision. Rescue thinking is dangerous because it builds entitlement. You start thinking someone owes you change. But transformation doesn't come from being owed. It comes from being willing. Ownership is the bridge between your pain and your breakthrough. When you own your life, even the hard parts, you unlock the freedom to change it. This doesn't mean you won't need help along the way. We all need support, wisdom, and community, but support should never replace responsibility. Waiting keeps you in cycles. Doing creates momentum. Every major breakthrough in your life will come on the other side of a decision you made, not a rescue you waited for. There is power in saying, "No one is coming, but I'm going anyway." That mindset builds strength. That mindset builds vision. That mindset builds people who don't just survive adversity. They transform through it. The strongest people aren't the ones who had the most help. They're the ones who stopped waiting and started building. The moment you stop looking for someone to save you and decide to save yourself, everything changes. Growth does not happen in denial. It begins the moment you stop blaming others for where you are and start taking ownership of your choices. Accountability isn't about guilt, it's about power. When you blame your past, your parents, your ex, your boss, or your circumstances, you give away your power to change. But when you accept responsibility, even for the pain you didn't cause, you regain the ability to create a new future. There's a difference between fault and responsibility. It may not be your fault that someone hurt you, rejected you, or failed you, but it is your responsibility to choose how that pain shapes your decisions, your mindset, and your future. Growth never happens in the arms of excuses. It happens when you face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. A man once shared that he blamed his father for every mistake he made in adulthood. He became a father himself, still carrying bitterness. His relationships failed not because of his father's absence, but because of his own refusal to take accountability. The turning point came when he looked in the mirror and asked, "What am I doing with what I've been given?" That question sparked his transformation. He couldn't change the past, but he could change his reaction to it. Accountability is not self-hate, it is self-leadership. When you hold yourself accountable, you are not tearing yourself down. You are building a stronger version of you. You are identifying what no longer serves your growth, and you are doing something about it. That takes courage, that takes maturity. People often run from accountability because it confronts the ego. It demands honesty. It forces you to admit that some of your wounds have become your identity. But growth requires that you choose truth over comfort. If you lie to yourself, you stay stuck. If you're honest, you grow, step by step, layer by layer. Accountability transforms your relationships. It teaches you to apologize without excuses, to own your emotions, and to stop expecting others to carry what you refuse to confront. It strengthens trust, builds character, and draws respect. People are drawn to those who are honest with themselves. There's a quiet power in someone who says, "Yes, I did that, but now I'm doing the work to be better." Growth will never chase you. You have to chase it. You can't fix what you refuse to face. You can't grow past what you keep denying. Accountability is the first mirror on the path to transformation. It shows you who you are, so you can decide who you want to become. Healthy people recognize each other. When you do the inner work, you naturally elevate the quality of the people and relationships you attract. Brokenness can cause you to bond over trauma, not purpose. When you haven't fixed yourself, you tolerate behavior that mirrors your unhealed parts. You confuse familiarity with compatibility, but healing shifts your standards. One woman shared how she repeatedly dated emotionally unavailable men. She kept asking, "Why do I attract the same type of person?" Through therapy, she realized she wasn't choosing them. They were reflecting her own avoidance of emotional vulnerability. As she healed, her circle changed. She stopped settling for attention and started requiring consistency. She no longer needed to be rescued, so she stopped attracting saviors. Healing changed her entire dynamic. Fixing yourself teaches you what love really looks like. It's no longer defined by chaos, pain, or pursuit. Love becomes peace. It becomes mutual growth. When you value yourself, you stop begging others to do so. You understand that your worth doesn't need validation. You stop chasing love and start choosing it with wisdom. This shift doesn't just affect romantic relationships. It impacts your friendships, your professional life, your family dynamic. When you're emotionally whole, you no longer stay in places just to feel needed. You don't confuse loyalty with self-sacrifice. You start seeking relationships where growth is mutual, respect is automatic, and presence is a gift, not a burden. Fixing yourself reveals blind spots. You start recognizing patterns. You understand that it wasn't just what they did. It was what you allowed. That awareness is power. It teaches you to guard your heart, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You love without losing yourself. You communicate without manipulating. You give without overextending. As your internal value rises, your external boundaries strengthen. You no longer tolerate what contradicts your peace. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. The more healed you become, the less noise you entertain. Your life becomes a reflection of your inner state. Chaos within attracts chaos around. Peace within invites peace without. People often ask, where are the good people? The real question is, are you becoming the kind of person that good people are drawn to? That's the power of self-fixing. You don't wait for better relationship. So you grow into the version of yourself that attracts and sustains them. Fixing yourself doesn't guarantee that everyone you meet will be healthy, but it guarantees that you'll recognize what is unhealthy and walk away without guilt. That's how you protect your future, from the inside out. Healing is not just about feeling better, it's about managing how you feel. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your emotions, regulate your reactions, and respond to life with maturity instead of impulse. Many people confuse emotional outbursts with authenticity, but true authenticity doesn't mean spilling every emotion. It means mastering your inner world so you don't become a prisoner of it. Someone once said, if you are easily triggered, your wounds are still in control. That statement exposes the root of so many relational breakdowns. A person who hasn't developed emotional intelligence will interpret correction as rejection, disagreement as disrespect, and feedback as failure. Without emotional discipline, your feelings will sabotage your destiny. Children cry when they don't get their way. Adults are supposed to communicate, adjust, and make wise decisions. But emotional immaturity can live in adult bodies. It shows up in silent treatment, passive-aggressive behavior, and emotional manipulation. It's not about age, it's about growth. Maturity isn't how long you've lived, it's how well you've learned. A young leader once found himself in constant conflict with his team. He thought they didn't respect him. In reality, his temper and lack of emotional control created an atmosphere of fear. Once he began working with a mentor, he discovered the power of pause. Instead of reacting, he learned to reflect. Instead of exploding, he learned to express. His leadership transformed, not because others changed, but because he did. Emotional intelligence is the gateway to inner peace. When you stop letting external situations control your internal state, you take back your power. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every insult needs a response. Your peace is too valuable to keep giving it away for free. People with emotional maturity are not easily offended. They don't walk around with a chip on their shoulder or wait for others to mess up so they can feel justified in their anger. They lead with compassion, but they are anchored in self-respect. They have learned that being reactive makes you predictable and easy to manipulate, but being calm under pressure makes you powerful. Fixing yourself means developing the ability to disagree without disrespect, to feel without losing control, to acknowledge pain without becoming bitter. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. That's not silence, it's strategy. Emotional intelligence turns reactive people into responsible leaders. Growth is when you stop being a victim of your emotions and become a steward of them. You don't deny how you feel, you direct it toward purpose. You don't suppress pain, you channel it into wisdom. This level of emotional strength doesn't come from pretending to be fine. It comes from doing the work behind the scenes, in prayer, in therapy, in stillness, and in truth. Self-work is not selfish, it's the most generous thing you can do for the people around you. Every healed person becomes a blessing. Every broken person who refuses to heal becomes a burden. If you don't deal with your pain, you will hand it to the people who love you the most. Your children, your spouse, your team, your friends. Hurt people hurt people. Healed people heal people. Imagine someone carrying a heavy suitcase through an airport. Every time they stop, they drop that weight on someone else's foot. Not because they mean to, but because they haven't realized how heavy their baggage is. That's how emotional wounds work. If you don't address them, they show up in conversations, expectations, decisions, and dynamics. You bleed on people who didn't cut you. One man shared that he never realized how his unhealed trauma affected his marriage until his wife said, "I feel like I'm being punished for someone else's mistakes." That moment shook him. He thought he was protecting her by being strong, but his silence, anger, and distance were creating damage. His healing didn't just restore his peace, it restored the love in his home. Fixing yourself shows your family what love really looks like. It teaches your children how to process emotions, how to say sorry, how to forgive, how to grow. You don't lead by perfection, you lead by example. When you work on your issues, you set a new standard for the next generation. You build a legacy of healing, not hurt. When you fix yourself, your presence becomes a gift instead of a burden. People feel safer around you. They trust you more. They enjoy your energy. You don't drain them. You inspire them. The work you do privately creates freedom for others publicly. Your healing becomes a light, showing others what's possible when you stop avoiding the work and start doing it. Fixing yourself increases your ability to love well. Love is not just feelings. It's emotional responsibility. It's choosing to not make others pay for what you haven't processed. It's showing up whole, not just needing to be filled. Love becomes sacrificial, not transactional. You're no longer entering relationships to get something. You're bringing something. You're offering peace, clarity, and emotional safety. Your healing matters more than you think. Every step you take toward wholeness changes someone else's life too. You may never know who's watching you, who's learning from you, who's healing because you did. Fixing yourself is not just for you. It's an act of love, a ripple effect of transformation that moves through families, friendships, and entire generations. Don't wait for the world to fix itself. Fix yourself and become a light to those still searching. Your healing creates healing for others. Your growth inspires growth in others. Your transformation speaks louder than your excuses. So before you fix the marriage, fix the man. Before you fix the ministry, fix the minister. Before you fix the friendship, fix the fear. Before you change the world, change yourself, because everything starts with you.